So the exhaust is finally installed. Worked out pretty good. That temporary cable setup, I think actually is going to work. Built a tiny little heat shield behind it because it was dumping really close to the plastic plastic gas tank. So there's already a heat shield there. I built a slightly bigger one. Seems like it's rattling a little, so who knows how long it'll last. But I guess the last thing to do is fire this thing up. It's a little loud, but not as bad as it was without this resonator. So it's having this has got the new computer in there. It took a little bit to get it to fire when I first tried. It wouldn't turn over, and apparently there's some kind of relearn process, but I went to go look at what that was and tried to start it again and fire it up, so maybe it did it itself. But as you can hear, it's deep. It's got a little bit of rattle when you rev it up at a certain range, so see what that's like driving around. But otherwise, I think we're good. So next step is to take this thing to the track and see what it can do. So all right, so we're at the track. This is literally going to be, sorry if it's a little noisy, this is basically the last race of the year. There's no more testing, unfortunately. I would have rather just gone to a test night. They're actually a little easier. But tomorrow is a little better race. I could run, but the weather doesn't look good. So today is basically a 2-class box, no box, basically electronics, no electronics bracket race. And unfortunately, you only get one time trial. But I think this is a last shot to test at this track to get really accurate data. So see what this thing can do. I did put it on the scale again, and I think it was 3120. So lost a little more weight. It's got to be the exhaust. Took off the intake, was like nothing. So saved a few more pounds with taking the old exhaust off, and a little more power here. So let's find out and see what this thing can do. I don't know. Probably gonna be one of the slowest cars here, but that's all right. If getting the bracket racing, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I want to try to do full passes though, obviously. So we'll find out. So I just finished my first run. It was pretty good. Didn't need a helmet, if that's a hint to how fast I went. But I ran 14.3, 2.160 foot, 95 miles, almost 96 miles an hour. The air is about as good as it gets at Bandimere. 6,800 feet elevation. The track's at 6,000 feet or something like that. So that's all you can really expect. About 50 degrees out here, so you know, power wise it's all you're going to get up here on the mountain. So but the good news is that is, I think 15.18 or 1.5 or something like that was my last run with just the lightened car. So I picked up 0.8 of a second. That's pretty good. If I'm going on memory here, I think it was like a 15.8 stock, and then I ran like a 15.1 gutted, and now I got down to a 14.3. So I picked up 7/10 with lightening it up, and I picked up 8/10 with power and tiny more lightning. So I want to get this thing to 13s. The biggest thing I saw, it's still slow enough, there's really no traction issues, but the biggest thing I saw is this thing, I think it's shifting into third right around the trap. So the gearing is just way off on this thing. I mean, yeah, if you're down at sea level, probably be a little better, but got to get that fixed. I mean, you should be, I mean, obviously ideally you're redlining in your 1-to-1 going through traps. I'm not even close to that, so I'll have to look this winter and see what gearing options, if any, there are with this car. But unfortunately, that is my only time trial. So from here, I got to go into racing. See how things go. I don't really want to lift, you know. I'm probably going to be the slower car in virtually every race, or at least one race. So, you know, they're going to be catching up to me, so I'm probably going to be, unless they screw up, you know. We'll see. I don't know. Not ideal, but time to race. Unfortunately, that was a bit of a wasted run. I did get the win. The other guy red lit pretty bad, but it spun a lot. I just stayed in it. I didn't expect it to based on that first run. So obviously we've reached the limit of these awful hard Goodyear tires. But here's the numbers. Pretty much worthless. It ran 1578. Or 1571, sorry. I mean, the mile an hour is still basically there, so the car was okay as far as just running, but you know, a 2.5 60 foot just spun. Even the 330 was a 7.0, which was a second slower. So it might, I mean, it was spinning a little bit down track apparently. I'm gonna have to watch the video, but yeah, it's a little frustrating. I mean, I'll go one more time. Probably have not much of a chance if you're gonna spin again. I'll probably keep somewhat same dial, maybe a little bit slower. Yeah, I guess I've just hit the limit of these tires. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, that first run was a solid run. That gives you data. It gives me data of what the car can do. But I'm going to get rid of these old super awesome Goodyears and get something better in there. I do have some what are they, Mickey Thompson drag radials they are 16, they'll fit, they're a little wide. I guess that's what I have to go with for now, and then well, it's end of the year, so this is stuff we'll be messing with next year. But you know, if that 1430 something, whatever that pass was, if that's all we get, then fine. At least it's a good base. I can see rubber and stuff on the side of the car. That just could be just from going down the track or spinning, who knows. But yeah, we'll go again. Just kind of wing it. You know, at this point, not much of a shot to keep going, but we'll see what happens. So I'm I'm still here. This car is, I mean, it's running. Actually, it's running fine. It's just there's no traction. It's just roasting the tires now on every pass. On that one, took off, spun the tires, got off, got back on, just spun the tires again. So I just got in it then and kind of ran the same time. But I still won because the guy red lit, so I'm still here. I think I just lucked out on that first pass. It was early. It was, you know, my class was one of the first classes well, it was the first class to go. So I think track prep was just as good as it gets this morning, and it hooked. But clearly, I mean, this is, heck, I was kind of planning on going home, so I keep winning, so I'm still here. I mean, I'm gonna put like a 15.8 dial on it and know it's gonna spin, and maybe something crazy will happen. You can't win bracket racing when you're spinning, but so far I haven't lost yet. So I don't know. I mean, this testing is obviously done. This car's not, the tires on here just, you know, they're, I think they're a 600 tread wear or tread, whatever it is. And they're old, so yeah. I think I just lucked out with the stock power, and then lightening it up it worked, but clearly with a little extra power it's got nothing. So, but we're still here. I'm gonna keep racing and see what happens, but you know, it's got good potential. Needs tires, a couple other things we can do this thing this winter, and see what happens next. All right, so pretty much here's the wrap up, the summary from this most recent adventure with the Buick, the old Buford. Well, we discovered the traction limit of a moderately modified front-wheel drive Buick Regal. Some of it is definitely due to the fact that those tires are old and really hard. I think they're a 600 tread wear Goodyear, like all season. I don't know, and some of you guys might know, let me know in the comments, if the Buick Regals of that late 90s, early 2000 generation have a limited slip. I kind of assume they did, but I've seen some research online where they say even if you do, sometimes you can still spin one wheel. So unfortunately, all my videos were shot inside the car, but there's a pretty good chance I was spinning probably just one wheel. I did wash the car. It's put away, at least for the first part of the winter, unfortunately, but we will have more content coming. And I did notice there's a lot of rubber on the passenger side behind the front wheel. Didn't see nearly as much on the driver's side. So curious to whether or not I was even spinning the driver's side. But anyway, I think I did 4 runs, and yeah, 3 of the 4, unfortunately, were basically throwaways. But hey, I was racing. Got to see what will happen. So the best run, the 1438. Yeah, not bad. I mean, 2.1 60 foot. Obviously, that was first pass of the day. The track was basically more or less as good as it was going to be. Not a lot of people have gone down. Tires are probably still warm from driving the car down. I didn't do a burnout or anything. Maybe I should have. But really, to summarize, for the first few steps for the project here, went from a 15.8 bone stock down to a 15.1, just lightening it up. That's more than I thought. And then what was that, a 14.3? So there's basically 7/8 each time. And once again, this is at elevation. This is basically 6,000 feet. The best density altitude was around 8,000, 70 some hundred. Well, let's look. I wrote it down the back, 6850. So that was that first pass. So that's the first pass we did here on the last track day here. So that's about as good as it gets at Bandimere. So, and that was the 14.338. So yeah, second and a half with, you know, basically just those mods. I'm pretty impressed. A few more plans coming up through the winter here to do a few more things, get the car ready next spring. Obviously, number one now is traction. I do have a set of slicks, or well, technically drag radials for it. So yeah, interesting to see. Thanks for watching through this little adventure here for the first few videos on the Buick. We've definitely got some more to come. So should be interesting. A little more power, a little more lightening in the vehicle. And then some suspension. Just keep going. Try to keep that thing stock looking. That's the whole plan with this thing. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.